19 years old when the Columbine shooting in Littleton, Colorado. That was a big thing that happened here in the United States. Schools everywhere were trying to figure out how do we stop violence like school shootings, suicides, and that sort of thing. And I guess I was at the right place at the right time because that was the birthplace of what's known as the anti-bullying movement. And I was just starting my adulthood. And I thought to myself, maybe this is something that I can kind of pour my life into, study aggression, why kids are so mean to each other, why they would go to such extreme measures to hurt other people. And that led me down the path of resilience education because I figured if kids would stop being offended, if they would stop taking offense and having their heart broken, then there wouldn't be aggression, there wouldn't be suicide ideation. And so that's kind of the direction of my life. It started way back then.
Wow, that's beautiful, and that's so thoughtful and impactful, actually. So, I mean, going on upon to
Housing kids are afraid of going to school because of being bullied. And when you down to say, what is that research? Where's it from? No one has an answer for it. I think someone just made it up. And I think the reason is because bullying is such a vague topic. What one kid calls a joke, another kid calls bullying. And so this is a massive problem with educators and parents to say, what is it? So there's no good statistics on the topic. But what we do know is that all of us struggle with being excluded from groups, being called, teased. All of us struggle with that. It's a human experience, I think. So I would say 100%, boy, that's a good statistic. 100% of everyone will have people problems. And so we might as well teach how to solve them.
right. I think quickly going upon to like if the word bullying is like being mean or whatever way it's being violent or it's being hurting others, there must be some root causes from where that is basically coming from. And are those kids or the people are victims themselves, or what are the basic root cause why someone bully the other person?
The root causes for aggression are basically four. They're either trying to bother you, which is like having power to upset you. They're joking with you. They're using you as the butt of the joke, the target of the humor. They're hurt by you. In other words, they process something you said or did in a way that they took offense to, and now they're retaliating back. Or they're criticizing you. They're seeing something wrong. They're pointing it out. Maybe not an attempt to be mean, but to help you improve. Well, when we are the target of bothering or joking or hurting or criticizing, we often call that bullying. We see that as aggressive. And what we need to do is understand the appropriate response. If they're bothering you, brush it off, man. It's like a sibling trying to annoy you. Don't be annoyed. It's just going to make them win. If they're joking with you, laugh it off. If they're hurt by you, apologize. And if they're criticizing, appreciate it and thank them. But those are the four motivations behind all aggression on earth. No matter how old you are, those are the four things behind it.
Okay, so that's a sort of you need to, you even the display of power, it's like, that sadist sort of satisfaction you get that yes, I'm powerful. So I think that can be also one reason if I'm not wrong.
Or that's the bothering first one right there. And that's what we call bullying. These other things we don't always call bullying, but sometimes kids will say, my coach criticized me, they're bullying me. And it's like, no, really, if I don't prefer the word bully or bullying, but I understand it's what the world uses as a term. It really only falls under the first one, which is the motivation to have psychological power over you, to see you struggle, to see you get angry or upset or something like that. And that gives them power. And so I try to teach kids how, as long as no crime is being committed, like your body or property is not threatened, that's just psychological power. And you don't have to get into a power struggle. You could be unfazed.
Definitely. And are there any behavioral root causes or personality traits of the people who get bullied? Are they underconfident? Are they coming from some sort of disturbed households? Or it's normal thing to be, be intimidated or being bullied?
The reason why people become targets of aggression, specifically the power element we spoke of, is because they get easily upset. They wear their emotions on their sleeve, so to speak. They're easily triggered. And that becomes sort of like a slot machine for kids. Kids like to push buttons and get a payout or a jackpot of anger. And so I remember visiting a school a few weeks ago, and a teacher asked me, I have two kids, they're both autistic. They both have about the same type of neurological disorder. They're both the same level of functioning, but unfortunately, one gets picked on all the time and the other doesn't. And she says, why does the other one get picked on? And I said, say no more. I already know. It's because the one that gets picked on is explosive or reactive, and that becomes a game to everyone around them. And the counselor who was speaking to me said, you're exactly right. The one that does not get picked on doesn't get triggered at all. So it's really our reaction that attracts, like a magnet, mean people.
So, I think you beautifully conveyed the solution that how should one behave, right? So, if you could elaborate it more, that right on the spot, if somebody is trying to be a little mean to you, then what should you do at that very moment? And yeah,
Well, I have two things I always teach. Don't get upset, treat them like a friend. Don't get upset, treat them like a friend. Don't get upset, treat them like a friend. That's my mantra, man. That is what I'm always teaching kids. So remember, if their whole goal is to upset you, the dumbest thing you could ever do is get upset. And the more upset you get, the more fun they have. The more fun they have, the meaner they are. The meaner they are, the more upset you get. You are in a downward spiral. So
right.
stop getting upset and treat them like a friend. And some kids say, well, they're my enemy. And I would say, well, look, I think I just triggered the balloons. Let's see if I can do more balloons here.
Yeah, that's great.
Don't get upset. Treat them like a friend. When you treat them like a friend, it doesn't mean you're friends with them, but it means you're friendly to them. It's very difficult for them to stay mean to you when you're not getting upset and you're treating them like a friend.
Right. So that's very interesting, dialogue sort of thing you give it to yourself, that don't get upset and treat them like friend. But, when in real life it becomes a little difficult at that times. At that very moment, you are actually getting upset. You are not being able to say it to your mind at that moment. So, are there any resilience techniques or exercises maybe we as parents can do, or we do with kids so that they become more resilient, or something we can do? It's some sort of exercise which we should do with our kids.
It has been said that the battle is won before it's fought in the preparation phase. And so wise is the parent who prepares the child for what they're going to experience.
Yes.
You see, if the child goes to school thinking that Timmy, we'll just use that as an imaginary name, Timmy is going to be nice. And I hope Timmy is nice. I need Timmy to be nice. He's been mean all week and I want Timmy to be nice. And then this child interfaces with Timmy and all of a sudden Timmy's mean because of that child's expectations, his desires, his hopes, or worse, his demands that Timmy must be nice. Well, when Timmy's not nice, that's why the child gets upset
Yeah.
because he had high expectations and those expectations were not met. The higher the expectations, the harder the fall. And so if we get on the front of it and say, hey, son, Timmy's been mean to you all year, hasn't he? Yeah. So if he was mean to you last week, he was mean to you yesterday, I bet he's going to be mean to you today. Yeah, he probably is. I tell you what, kiddo, if he's mean to you and you don't get upset, I'm going to give you $1 And if he's mean to you and you don't get upset, but you treat him like a friend, I'm going to give you $5. For real? For real. I did this with my son, Swati. I challenged him to
Yeah.
expect mean behavior. And if he expected it, he would actually be glad when he got it because I was going to reward his resilience. He made $43 that week when we experimented with this. And he was loving the fact that there were mean people. Because haters was how dad was going to hook him up. I prepared him before he faced it. And wise is the parent who does that. Because, and I'll say this, like, the only reason why your child is upset is because their expectations are not met. So
About
let's
you.
remove those expectations and let's actually expect mean behavior and let's reward resilience in the face of that mean behavior. The opposite emotion will actually emerge.
Beautiful. I'm sure because it's tried and tested by you, and you might be teaching to more students. And this is actually interesting. We do the reward system for kids in different things, but I think this is pretty creative and new. I think that that if somebody gets upset, is mean, and you do not get upset, you've been paid for it, and I think it'll actually at that very moment it'll turn around the whole idea of being seeing mean behavior and receptivity of mean behavior, I guess. So in that case, I'm sure your kid must be like, oh, nobody was mean today. He didn't earn anything. So I can relate to that feeling. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. So I think the two exercises that take away from right now till discussion right now here is, don't get upset and treat them like a friend. This dialogue, and again, then gamifying the whole idea that if somebody is mean, just be nice, just be okay. And is there any sort of quick answers you prepare your kids or your students for? Like if somebody says you this, you can always answer back them like that. If you have a quick list, that would always help, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to the four motivations of aggression, if they're bothering you, I teach kids to say so. So it's very simple. You don't have to be a clever thinker. All you have to do is say so. So if someone says, you can't play basketball, so your dad's poor, he lost his job, so nobody likes you, so just so very simple. Now, if they're joking with you, that's the second thing. It's haha, or that's funny. You should be a comedian. When they say, "Hey, Brooks, you're fat." Aha, that's a good one. Yeah, you're really fat. You're like a whole zip code. If you sat on Skittles, you'd pop out a rainbow. That's how fat you are. Oh, that's a good one. You should be a comedian, man. Haha. You just laugh. If they're hurt by you, it's a very simple response. Uh, are you mad at me? I am sorry for that. If you can sense that someone is upset with you, and you could simply de-escalate it by saying, are you mad at me? I'm sorry about that. You know, that's the response without making excuses, without shifting blame, without escalating hostility. Just say, hey, man, I'm sorry. But then the fourth and final reason why people are mean to us is because they're criticizing us. And a simple thank you, or I hear you, or I
And yeah.
appreciate it. Thanks for telling me. Even if it's spitefully delivered with real mean spirit, you could still say, I hear you, thanks.
Nice. I mean, I think I would call this that war of words, maybe, that if somebody is trying to be really aggressive with words, and then you can always settle down. Don't you think at times, if somebody doesn't react the way the bully is, yearning for, it would bug them even more? It's like, oh, I really wanted to irritate that person, but he is so pretty normal, behaving so pretty normal. Does this overall, it aggressify the whole idea of bully, or does it pacify the situation? I'm curious about it.
Yeah, I think that's very insightful. It does increase hostilities for a short time. They're used to getting a reaction out of you. Now that they're not, they have to try new tactics. My mentor, Izzy Kalman, always instructed children that it will get worse before it gets better. And you have to expect that as well.
Wow.
So, because you're not paying out your anger, they're going to try different tactics to try to disturb you. But you need to be 100% of the time calm, cool, and collected, not getting upset, treating them like a friend, and give it 2, 3 days. I think no more than five. If you can hang in there for 5 days interfacing with this person, they'll eventually leave you alone. It cannot last forever.
Right. So I think this particular, the conversation has been really, really helpful in the way that if somebody is verbally really, really mean to you. So coming on to the next one, if someone tries to be, if someone is senior or someone is, even physically bigger, or is trying to be violent or threatening physically, is there any strategy in such sort of scenario?
Yeah, almost all physical aggression starts with verbal aggression and it escalates. What most kids do is they try to say something extreme to you, really extreme, like make fun of your face, your race, your religion, or your mama. They'll do that verbally in hopes that you will push them. And once you make physical contact, now in their mind, and according to their ethic, they believe they have every right to now fight you. That's why we have to teach children how to be unfazed by verbal insults so that it doesn't escalate to physical confrontation. So, again, if someone's trying to be physical with you and they're pushing you around, they're usually with you. I mean, rarely is it that they're joking. I mean, I guess it's a possibility, but in my experience, if they're really wanting to beat you up, they have three victim characteristics: anger, hatred, desire for revenge. And when you have anger, hatred, and revenge, those are the three criteria of a victim mindset. So they actually feel victimized by you. So we go back to my system and we say, how do you deal with someone who's presenting themselves as your victim? You say, are you mad at me? I am sorry for that. I don't want to fight you. I don't want you as an enemy. I want you as a friend. And you cannot fight with someone who doesn't fight back. That's called abuse. It does happen, but it's exceedingly rare. The kid who's about to fight you wants to have a part of his story that you attacked him because he knows he's going to have to deal with the authorities. So he's going to do everything to provoke you so that you react. And then
Yeah.
he has an excuse to protect himself because he views you as the perpetrator and he identifies as the victim. So once again, don't take the bait on the verbal level. And if they start to still be physical, you apologize because they're showing themselves to be victims.
Okay. So I think that would really help in that moment if you apologize and you straight away go and say, even if they're saying you're a loser, you're that, or probably they're even hitting you. But I think to have that resilience to get up and then say that, hey, what's the matter? Let's be the friends. That is a strength we need to inculcate in our kids. I mean, that really requires a lot of, discussions or maybe one-on-one sessions or some sort of exercises so that the kids they become that sort of resilient.
Yes,
So,
if you Google my name, Brooks Gibbs, you'll see all kinds of role plays. Again, I learned this from school psychologist Izzy Kalman. He realized, talk therapy only goes so far. You need to
yeah,
experience, you need to put the child in a game day scenario. We do this for sports all the time. Hey, if the other team does this scenario, this is how you respond. Well, we need to do that with social problems. And so putting kids in a role play environment, which is so fun, so entertaining, so enjoyable, it's non-threatening, the kids feel safe, and you have them call you names and you get upset and then you stop and then you have them call names again and you don't get upset. You're basically demonstrating to them how to respond in this situation. And then my favorite thing to do is actually reverse the roles where I'm mean to the child and they practice not getting upset.
true. I think every parent or every school should do such sort of role playing. I think it really, such practices and such reinforcement always prepares you better in how in behaving, in how to behave in that particular situation. So my another one was how we discussed if it was a verbal bullying, then we discussed if it's more of a physical threatening or the violent one. And the third I would want to discuss is the group sort of bullying. At times there's a group of friends who are maybe in sort of a fun, they've started for a fun sort of thing, but it turned to an ugly scene, or maybe it was intentional, I really don't know. It can be anything of that sort. But in that group bullying, how do you think one should actually behave or escape or rescue that sort of situation? It is not a simple situation.
This is called uh, well, it just depends on what's happening. So if they're excluding you, for example, that's a whole group excluding you. Maybe they're verbally insulting you. You're surrounded by a bunch of people who are calling you names. Maybe it's pushing and shoving, or maybe it's gossip and rumors. That group is actually talking bad about you behind your back. So I always like to get a little more information. Is it verbal? Is it nonverbal? Is it direct? Is it indirect? But the basic principle is, um, if you believe that group aggression is far worse than individual aggression, it doesn't make it true. It just means you believe it to be true. And if you believe it to be true, then you're going to have all the emotional manifestations of suffering a big deal. For example, a middle schooler or someone around 13 years old, let's say they have a bunch of people online and they're talking bad about them, or maybe they did a selfie post and everyone's putting bad comments. It's not the comments that actually create bad feelings in that child, but it's the thoughts about the comments. The thoughts, oh no, everyone, this is cyberbullying. And I often get asked, is cyberbullying worse than school bullying? I would say you have to ask the person that's the target. Because if the person that's the target says, nope, it's the same thing. It's still verbal. I don't care. It's still exclusive. They're excluding me. I don't care. It's still, gossip and rumors. They can talk about me all they want. At the end of the day, it comes down to, what does the child think? If they think it's a big deal, they think it's a big, big deal, then they're going to have big, big feelings. But if they think it's a little deal, then they're going to have little feelings. So it goes back to expectations and interpretations. And I have to help the child say, no, you don't have to get upset. You really don't. You can treat them like a friend, even when there's a bunch of them.
Beautiful. I mean, I had not, I've never thought it like that, honestly. It's like, I know even before this particular, conversation, I was always used to think, what about group bullying? What about cyber bullying when everybody is watching and listening to the what all, everybody, the whole world, everybody has a world around them. So if that whole world is listening to your people are mocking it. So how to handle that? It's again about the mindset, how big you make it, and then that of course then that how big it becomes. So that is definitely a beautiful food for thought. But yet, is there another sort of if something has already happened of this sort, maybe a group bullying or maybe a cyber bullying, and that has actually affected kids or my anybody's self-confidence badly, they are not being able to show up. So in that case, when somebody is actually taken those big feelings really to the heart, how can we make that kid or person come out of that situation?
We have to understand why they've taken it to heart and why their heart is broken. My grandmother used to say, if you want to break my heart, you have to go through my brain first, because it's my brain that is the gateway to my emotional state. And what that means is, if my heart is broken, it's because I believe what is done to me is awful. It's like the worst thing. It's the opposite of what I wanted. And because I didn't get what I wanted, my heart is broken. It's just like a temper tantrum 2-year-old toddler. He wanted Skittles. His mother said no. He thinks he must have Skittles. his mother holds the line and says, absolutely not, it's going to spoil your dinner. Now his heart is broken because he didn't get what he demanded he must have.
Yeah.
There is no difference between that little guy and us as more grown up. It is something that happened in our brain. So if it is a cognitive process that breaks my heart, it is a cognitive process that heals my heart. And I always ask children three questions. How could this have been worse? You weren't invited to a party. They're talking bad about you online. They're gossiping and spreading rumors about you. What would be worse than that? Is there anything that could be worse? And they'll say, well, what if the rumors were true? I guess if the rumors were true, that would be really bad. And I would say, that's right. What if no one was talking about me or even thought about me? That'd be worse. What if they acted as if I didn't exist? You're right. That's worse. Okay. So at least it's not that bad. Second question I ask is, why won't this matter in your future? So they're talking bad about you now, or this group is excluding you now. Why will that not matter in your future? Well, I guess I'll be invited to future parties. I guess all my friends won't treat me this way. So I'm going to probably forget about it over the next couple weeks or months. And certainly if I try to get into university or college, they're not going to like not allow me to go because I was excluded from a cool party. That's right. It's not going to have any impact on your life. Third question, how could this turn out for your good? So they're talking bad about you. They're excluding you as a group. How could this be a good thing? Well, now I know who my friends are not. And
Yeah.
those are not my friends, because a friend loves at all times. And those people are fair weather friends. That's right. So this gave you an opportunity to really differentiate who your fake friends are and who your real friends are. In my opinion, I'm glad this happened. Aren't you glad? Well, I guess I'm glad. I can see some good in it. That's how we help a child crawl out of their broken heart, is to rethink it could be worse. It doesn't matter in my future. This could actually turn out for my good. And then
Yeah.
they feel less bad about it.
True. So, one last question from my end, and then we'll open the questions for the audience. So, we have discussed about how we can actually bring out a kid from that sort of trauma. Now, kid, your student really wants to be a part of a group, but he's not been able to be part of that group. He's been excluded from that, and he is yearning, that he's not be the part of the gang. So what do you think? And that particular thing always make the confidence of the that particular kid, it goes, it really lowers down. So then how do you really think we should go about it?
I do think we fail to teach our children how to make friends and how to keep friends. And this is why they're struggling, because they've not mastered the skill of friendship. And the very first rule, which has been around thousands of years, is known today as the golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And the reason why this golden rule works so powerfully is because the law of reciprocity. If I treat someone a certain way, they will likely reciprocate that same treatment. So if I'm nice to them, they'll be nice to me. If I'm mean to them, they'll be mean to me. Well, what happens if I'm nothingness? What if I'm just neutral, or I'm sort of socially dead? Well, then they will be socially dead too. They're not going to they're going to reciprocate deadness or nothingness. So we have to put our child in the mind of winning friends. You have to play as if you want to win. How many
Yeah.
friends can you make? Okay, well, then what's your strategy to win the game of making friends?
Yeah.
And I use a friend acronym, FRIEND in English. And I say, when you approach someone as a potential friend, you want to ask them about their family. How many siblings do you have? Are your parents still together? Are they still married? How big is your distant family? How many cousins do you have? I'm just curious about your life. That's, family. You want to ask them about their family. And then R is, what do you do to relax? What do you do to relax? What do you like to do to just for recreation? Do you like playing video games? Do you like taking a walk on the beach? what do you like to enjoy to do? And then you ask them, do you have any interests, any hobbies or anything that you have? What about education? What's your favorite subject? And then
Yeah.
once you get to the E, which is education, oftentimes the friend you're trying to win will reciprocate the questions and say, what about your family? What about your recreation? What about your interest in education?
Yeah.
That's when you know you have a qualified potential friend who's as interested in you as you are in them. And
Yeah.
when you finally get to the N and the D, you're asking them about their needs. Do you have anything I could help you with? You're demonstrating a servant heart. And then finally, D is what are your dreams, your aspirations, and your goals? If they're willing to open up about their, deep hearted dreams, you could potentially make a fast friend for life.
Beautiful. So thank you for bringing that up and giving those actually little dialogues and which we can have with our kids and every parent should have with their kids and giving them the ways to make better friends and how to be more congenial with the friends. So it's like so I'm going thank you for sharing that and now I'm going for a question. There's someone Akul who's saying my son is 5 years old and is always bullied about his sensitivity because he cries all the time and kids call him crybaby and they do not want to involve him with themselves with their game and everything. So what do you think we
And
can
that,
do?
and I've got bad news and I've got good news. The bad news is, as things stand right now, it will not stop. Your child is a magnet for mean people. And the reason why is because he's getting so incredibly upset. And the more upset he gets, the more people want to repel from him. He's a poor sport. He's not being picked. He's not easygoing.
Yeah.
Well, what's the good news? Well, the good news is you can remove that emotion by helping your child manage their expectations. The only reason why anyone cries ever is because they're not getting what they want. And the only reason why anyone is angry is because they're not getting what they demand they must have. So, to the degree that they demand, to that degree, they will be disturbed. If it's just a lightly held desire, oh, I'd like to be picked for the team, then they'll be disappointed when they're not picked. If it's a rigid demand, I have to be picked for the team, well, then they'll be disturbed. So, the simple solution to your child's problem is to help them give up the grip of their demands, give up their loosely held desire, help them be whatevs, help them be creative about what else they can do. And ideally, once your kid gets about 7 or 8, you could actually teach him how to hope they reject him. But at 5 years old, that's too complex for a child. So I would basically say, whenever your child is disappointed, he wanted something and he's disappointed, and he does not get too upset, you reward him. You notice it. It's called strategic noticing. I noticed you didn't get upset when we said no. I noticed that. Good job. I'm really, really proud of you. You start rewarding his ability to adjust well to disappointments. That's the only way that that's going to grow. Because his problem is he doesn't know how to bounce back when a bummer happens. So you have to expand his ability to be flexible in his mind. So reward when he's disappointed and not disturbed. And also try to prepare him before he goes with creativity. If they say no, then you can still do this. You just pivot.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I too get to see watch your video, which says, pivot, have a plan B, always, why always stick to one particular expectation sort of result. So beautifully explained. Thank you for that. And so Joy in City, he writes, how to tackle bully like someone blames you wrongly. Think from your family itself. If there's a blame sort of thing, which is, I guess, that is what he meant. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it would depend on what type of consequences. I have a friend who's on death row that was blamed for murdering his wife and child, and he did not do it. So
Oh,
he's on death row. The whole system was and there's a wrongful conviction. What do you do in that situation?
Yeah.
Well, you accept the harsh reality that the system failed you. What are you going to do? Stay in your cell and say, my life's not worth living anymore? Or are you going to scrape up whatever's left of you and blaze forward and say, well, this is my world now, and I'm going to make the most of it? And that's what I have helped coach this man to do. And he's been able to become a leader. I remember when there was powdered milk given to all the prisoners, he advocated to the warden of the prison for liquid milk, fresh milk in boxes, and he was able to do that. And so he started
Um.
to rise up the hierarchical structure of leadership.
So, am I audible?
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you now. I think we had a problem, but now we're back. Sorry about that.
Perfect. Perfect. I think Robbie got recorded. Um, So, I mean, I hope that was beautifully explained, Joy. And yeah, the things really get worse. It's about, again, coming again and again back to the whole mindset game. How do you basically treat and train your mind? So I think that would be the answer to all the questions and all sort of, I think the situations which we come across. It not just the bullying, or maybe, you're getting hurt, or you're being blamed. It's been or you are in a relationship sort of thing. I think it's all about how do you train your mind to deal in that particular situation. And that's where you come, the resilience coach, I guess.
And
So
well, and the reason why blame hurts so bad is because we feel mischaracterized. We
yeah.
believe people view us in a way that we really are not.
Yeah.
Well, you do that. I do that. We judge, we globally rate, we label people. I'm not saying it's right, but it's the human nature to try to blame people for problems that they may not be worthy of blame. And so I always challenge people to say, in this life, you will have trouble. You will be mischaracterized. You will be criticized. You will be joked about. You will be gossiped and rumored about. You will be blamed wrongfully for things that you did not do. And, life is hard. Wear a helmet, guard your heart. And it's okay that not everyone approves of you. And if you're an approval addict, blame is like one of the worst weapons anyone can use, and they'll continue to use it because they know it works.
So, this term approval addict is actually, just, it caught my whole attention too. So is there any sort of psychological test or some questions one should ask oneself from that basically tells, am I an approval addict? Because at times in that flow of your own life, you really do not know what exactly sort of person you are. So is there any some sort of questions one should ask themselves if to verify, are you that sort of a person, or your kid is that sort of a kid that who is always seeking for a approval, or is the people's pleaser? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, we are all approval addicts in recovery till the day we die. It is the curse of humanity to seek approval for a feeling of validation. So, what I like to do is differentiate attached relationships and detached relationships. For the attached relationships, my parents, my spouse, my children, I do seek approval from them. And I don't think that that's wrong. I think that that's actually quite healthy because it motivates me to accommodate their needs. Because if I was detached and they had needs, I'd be like, I don't need your approval. No, we need to kind of like submit to all of those attached relationships. Here's the question I would ask. Are there any detached relationships I have, like my coworkers, my neighbor, stuff like my boss, where there's no relational attachment from a family perspective, but we're detached as acquaintances and professional colleagues? Why am I looking for their approval? Why does their opinion of me so important? It should not be that way. I need to sever that connection. I need to detach. For some dumb reason, I am putting my worth and my validation directly connected to their approval. And that's why they have power over me. No, I'm going to sever it. I'm going to have a psychological divorce from them in my life. They are equal to a stranger in in my mind. From emotional perspective, they're a stranger to me. And if they leave me or reject me tomorrow, I don't give a flying flip. I don't care. I'm only going to give the desire for approval for my attached relationships because those are the ones that are worthy. So that's the test.
That's beautiful. Of course, this, I think, having a psychological divorce, I think it's beautifully conveyed that, have it a clear thing in your mind that who are the people you should actually seek validation from. And these are the people I should not be bothering about. So I think this is the beautiful exercise even we should do for ourselves, for our kids, so that they could actually try them identifying and breaking it down to that easy level rather than exaggerating their feelings and those thoughts. It's beautifully explained, honestly. So I mean, coming on to the sort of, closing, is there any particular technique or thing, you would want to share with people wherein that could be really helpful and that really works with your, groups and your students? That, yeah.
Yes, I always challenge my audiences to view resilience like a industrial elevator that opens this way, not the traditional elevator that opens this way, but a freight elevator. Those are my favorite. And the reason why I have them have that word picture is because if you would push down on the bottom part of the elevator, the top part would automatically, in a parallel system, rise. And then there would be a gap in between the two doors.
Yeah.
Resilience lives in this gap. Okay, what's the top? What's the bottom? The bottom door is you want to lower the importance of an offense. It's not that big a deal. If you think it's a big deal, then your top part is going to be very low and you're going to have narrow. The top part is your frustration tolerance, your ability to endure hardship. And if you have low frustration tolerance, it's because you think something's a big deal. But if you lower the importance of an offense, your frustration tolerance rises and you have what I call resilience margin. And so if you ever had a little kid, a little toddler running down the hallway of your house, he trips and falls, he hurts himself, he'll immediately look at mom's face to see how hurt he is.
Yeah.
And if mom freaks out, he will freak out. But if mom lowers the importance of the offense and says, "You're okay, buddy, get up," then he's okay and he's going to get up. All of life's disappointments works just like that little guy's problems. If it's not a big deal, he has the endurance or the resilience to endure it. So think about what you're getting upset about. Is it worth it? Likely not. Lower the importance of those offenses and you'll be a resilient person.
Beautiful. I mean, exactly. I think we saw in your videos as well, you're talking, your hands are talking. And honestly, I wanted to share with people as well here. I made your videos, watch to my son, and he watched it around at, I think, 10 to 15 times. And now he has started talking in this way itself. It's like, I just said that, and he was here. And then, Mama, I said, it's okay. And I reached here. So it's like, the kids, they are really receptive and they really learn faster than us any day. It's like we're stuck with and we have to unlearn ourselves with a lot of things in our head, and we're always victimizing ourselves. Okay, you don't know what's going on in my life, what I've been through. It's like that's so much of baggage we make for ourselves, and it's beautifully conveyed that at right age, if we start teaching our kids that how to deal such situations, it's gonna be beautiful actually. One last question, which I was having in my mind, it's like um, many of the kids are bullying or being mean to others, right? But there must be something which are actually making them do that. Is the parenting also a reason that that those bullies are victims, or is this something parents need to do with the kids so that their kids are empathetic enough and they don't disrespect or others and understand the others better. I think if all parents could achieve in this, that they make their kids really empathetic and understanding, I think this would actually be, never be a problem then. So what do you think we should, that dialogue we parents should have with kids so that they become more empathetic?
I think we need to train our kids how to be a leader, because if you study bullying, it really is leadership psychology. It is the equivalent to guerrilla psychology. The biggest, strongest, baddest, and meanest gorilla always fights his way to the top. And once he gets to the top, everyone respects it. Why? Because that same guy will fight the other tribe of gorillas if we're under attack. So there is a punitive style of leadership that children learn really quick, regardless of parents. I don't think parents have much to do with it other than modeling good leadership behavior. You don't tear down people to get higher. Instead, you want to be good at what you do. That's called competency. And you want to serve other people and help them be good at what they do. That's called service. So, competency and service, be good at what you do and help other people. That's how you actually rise to the top of your social spectrum. And once you're at the top, everyone will defend you if you come under attack. So it comes with social insurance. So the bullying research always leads to leadership styles, punitive or guerrilla style, or civil and competency and service style. Um, so that's what I would say. Yes, it's important for parents to model good behavior, model apologies, model good humor, model taking a criticism without getting upset, and modeling de-escalation tactics. All of those modeling things are good. But if you're just talking bullying, which is dominance
Yeah.
behavior, you got to realize there's two ways to do it: uncivilized, guerrilla style, or civilized, and that's competency and service.
Beautiful. I think it this whole episode.
I got you now.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Yes, so I think each and every parent should actually follow and have this sort of discussions, a clear discussions with their kids, because I think this really, really gonna help them. And I'm truly honored to have you here and getting all these questions beautifully explained. And anything else any last message you want to have for parents, which you think you want them to be like, or any last message
I would
for
just say, yeah,
this particular life.
I would just say, Swati, you're a really good example of a mom who loves her kids and desires to learn so that she has solution to her child's problems. And it's not by demanding that the world accommodate her child. That's a internet Karen who's always yelling and screaming at the school. You're not that type of person. You are a skills-based mother who says, if my child is struggling, it's because they lack a skill. You put personal responsibility on your child to learn what they need to learn so they can solve their own problem. What better approach to motherhood than that? Because if you kept doing what the internet Karen mothers do, always screaming at everyone else to accommodate their child, you're going to create a child who's helpless, who feels entitled to be accommodated, who will be a neurotic piece of work. But instead, you put the burden of responsibility on your child and you're alongside of them helping them with the struggle. You're not abandoning them, and you're giving them the skills. Like to me, you're a beautiful picture of a healthy mother, and I think you're worthy of following on Instagram. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for this. The more we are discussing, the more things are being, unfold for me. So the very last line of yours, it actually unfolded a lot, ideas in me. It's like, when we yell at them, we yell at kids, or, then we entitle them for you are not good at this. So definitely those are the kids who would seek validation out. And if they don't get the validation out, they become more aggressive. So, I mean, that question which was actually, ringing me up again and again, that why when people bully, why aren't they feel the pain of this, the person who is across them. So I think you beautifully unfolded it. And I think that is where we parents need to put, whenever there is a problem, go seek the solution, you know, go to the root cause and just unfold and, just,
Well,
repair it.
I'll say this too, but before we leave, the reason why people shut off their ability to empathize is what I've coined a term called the victim tunnel. They've fallen into a victim tunnel. They cannot see outside of their own victimization. All they see is the mean person and the pain that they feel from that mean person. And so their retaliation, which is often worse than the original provocation, they are careless about the retaliation. They're just so hurt. They don't care how it happens, or how that other person feels about it, because they are obsessed with seeing themselves as the victim. That's why the victim mindset is the most dangerous mindset on planet Earth. And it's what I spend my career trying to cure people of. Because the worst acts of violence are committed by people who feel like victims. You show me a big bomb. You show me a big school shooting. You show me a big war. Why are people able to kill millions of other people? It's because they think they're the victim, and they're
Yeah.
in that tunnel, and they can't think about the consequences to their actions. So when we victim proof students, we bully proof the world.
I think you've so nicely portrayed this victim tunnel. I think we would love to have another sort of discussion or a session or a live wherein we can go even deeper to, find what are the traits and how, the techniques we should, one, to basically know how we get to know that we are in that victim tunnel, because then that tunnel you really can't know that you are in that tunnel.
Right.
So, yeah, so the tests, and then going on to how we can actually come out of it. So, I think there's so much more to discuss, and we are already taken a lot of your time, and people are actually loving it, and they're demanding that to have such live sessions more, and so that they are getting to learn so much more. So, again, thank you
Well,
so much.
let's do it. In our next live, we'll talk about perfectionism, approval addiction, fairness constructs, frustration intolerance, idealism, and hedonism or comfort seeking. Those are the 6 elements that keep us in a victim tunnel, that we have to cure ourselves from those traps. But that's a little tease for next time.
Definitely, I'm already excited. It's like because today's live is actually, was sort of a lot of things which have taken home today, and a lot of unfolding of things that how such things happen and how should we deal with it. I'm definitely gonna save here this live video, and everybody who has probably missed this at particular time, you can anytime come and watch it and leave it in the comments, your questions